Tokusan was in his own country. He was not satisfied with Zen, although he had heard about it. He thought, those southern monks say they can teach Dharma outside of the sutras. They are all wrong. I must teach them. So he traveled south. He happened to stop near Ryutan's monastery for refreshments. An old woman who was there asked him, "What are you carrying so heavily?" Tokusan replied, "This is a commentary I have made on the Diamond Sutra after many years of work." The old woman said, "I read that sutra which says, the past mind cannot be held, the present mind cannot be held, the future mind cannot be held. You wish some tea and refreshments? Which mind do you propose to use for them?" Tokusan was as though dumb. Finally he asked the woman, "Do you know of any good teacher around here?" The old woman referred him to Ryutan, not more than 5 miles away. So he went to Ryutan in all humility, quite different from when he had started his journey. Ryutan in turn was so kind he forgot his own dignity. It was like pouring muddy water over a drunken man to sober him. After all, it was an unnecessary comedy. 100 hearings cannot surpass one seeing. But after you see the teacher, that one glance cannot surpass 100 hearings. His nose was very high, but he was blind after all. Two monks were arguing about a flag. One said, "The flag is moving." The other said, "The wind is moving." The sixth patriarch happened to be passing by. He told them, "Not the wind, not the flag. Mind is moving." Mumon's comment. The sixth patriarch said, "The wind is not moving, the flag is not moving, mind is moving." What did he mean? If you understand this intimately, you will see the two monks there trying to buy iron and gaining gold. The sixth patriarch could not bear to see those two dull heads, so he made such a bargain. Wind, flag, mind moves. Same understanding. When the mouth opens, all are wrong. Daibai asked Baso, "What is Buddha?" Baso said,
"I want you to know, I will love you as long as I breathe."
There's a masked armada
If
in
anyone
orbit.
fully understands this,
You're facing a full invasion, Fremen.
he is eating Buddha's food.
How can you be so sure the great houses are here for me? They may be curious to hear my side of the story, don't you think? I am Paul Atreides, son of Leto Atreides, Duke of Arrakis.
If one truly understands,
Bernie, my lord, send a warning to all ships. If the great houses attack, our atomics will obliterate all spice fields.
You're out of your mind.
He's bluffing.
Consider what you're about to do, Paul Atreides.
Message sent, my lord.
As a servant of the Imperium, you will know it might be your fate. You'll be lucky to keep your head. Take the hand of your daughter. She will remain safe, and we will rule together over the Empire. But you have to answer for my father. I want you to know, I will love you as long as I breathe.
"Go straight ahead."
There's a...
When the monk proceeded a few steps, she said to herself, "He also is a common churchgoer." Someone told this incident to Joshu, who said, "Wait until I investigate." The next day he went and asked the same question, and the old woman gave the same answer. Joshu remarked, "I have investigated that old woman."
Yeah.
Mumon's comment. The old woman understood how war is planned, but she did not know how spies sneak in behind her tent. Old Joshu played the spy's work and turned the tables on her, but he was not an able general. Both had their faults. Now I want to ask you, what was the point of Joshu's investigating the old woman? When the question is common, the answer is also common. When the question is sand in a bowl of boiled rice, the answer is a stick in the soft mud. philosopher asked Buddha, "Without words, without the wordless, will you tell me truth?" The Buddha kept silence. The philosopher bowed and thanked the Buddha, saying, "I have cleared away my delusions and entered the true path." After the philosopher had gone, Ananda asked the Buddha what he had attained. The Buddha replied, "A good horse runs even at the shadow of the whip." Mumon's comment: Ananda was the disciple of the Buddha. Even so, his opinion did not surpass that of outsiders. I want to ask you monks, how much difference is there between disciples and outsiders? To tread the sharp edge of a sword, to run on smooth frozen ice, one needs no footsteps to follow. Walk over the cliff with hands free. A monk asked Baso, "What is Buddha?" Baso said, "This mind is not Buddha." Mumon's comment: If anyone understands this, he is a graduate of Zen. If you meet a fencing master on the road, you may give him your sword. If you meet a poet, you may offer him your poem. When you meet others, say only a part of what you intend. Never give the whole thing at once. Nansen said, "Mind is not Buddha. Learning is not the path." Mumon's comment: Nansen was getting old and forgot to be ashamed. He spoke out with bad breath and exposed the scandal of his own home. However, there are few who appreciate his kindness. When the sky is clear, the sun appears. When the earth is parched, rain will fall. He opened his heart fully and spoke out, but it was useless to talk to pigs and fish. Seijo, the Chinese girl, observed Goso, had two souls, one always sick at home and the other in the city, a married woman with 2 children. Which was the true soul? Mumon's comment: When one understands this, he will know it is possible to come out from one shell and enter another, as if one were stopping at a transient lodging house. But if he cannot understand, when his time comes and his 4 elements separate, he will be just like a crab dipped in boiling water, struggling with many hands and legs. In such a predicament he may say, "Mumon did not tell me where to go," but it will be too late then. The moon above the clouds is the same moon. The mountains and rivers below are all different. Each is happy in its unity and variety. This is one, this is two. Goso said, when you meet a Zen master on the road, you cannot talk to him, you cannot face him with silence. What are you going to do? Mumon's comment: in such a case, if you can answer him intimately, your realization will be beautiful. But if you cannot, you should look about without seeing anything. Meeting a Zen master on the road, face him neither with words nor silence. Give him an uppercut, and you will be called one who understands Zen. Gozo said, when a buffalo goes out of his enclosure to the edge of the abyss, his horns and his head and his hoofs all pass through, but why can't the tail also pass? Mumon's comment: if anyone can open one eye at this point and say a word of Zen, he is qualified to repay the 4 gratifications. And not only that, he can save all sentient beings under him. But if he cannot say such a word of true Zen, he should turn back his tail. If the buffalo runs, he will fall into the trench. If he returns, he will be butchered. That little tail is a very strange thing.
And I'm just wondering, why is Dr. Adams supporting Darren LaHood against the campaign to elect candidate Congressman Kitover?
A monk asked Joshu why Bodhidharma came to China. Joshu said, an oak tree in the garden. Mumon's comment. If one sees Joshu's answer clearly, there is no Shakyamuni Buddha before him, and no future Buddha after him. Words cannot describe everything. The heart's message cannot be delivered in words. If one receives words literally, he will be lost. If he tries to explain with words, he will not attain enlightenment in this life. Hyakujo wished to send a monk to open a new monastery. He told his pupils that whoever answered a question most ably would be appointed. Placing a water vase on the ground, he asked, "Who can say what this is without calling its name?" The chief monk said, "No one can call it a wooden shoe." Isan, the cooking monk, tipped over the vase with his foot and went out. Hyakujo smiled and said, "The chief monk loses," and Isan became the master of the new monastery. Mumon's comment. Isan was brave enough, but he could not escape Hyakujo's trick. After all, he gave up a light job and took a heavy one. Why can't you see he took off his comfortable hat and placed himself in iron stocks? Giving up cooking utensils, defeating the chatterbox. Though his teacher sets a barrier for him, his feet will tip over everything, even the Buddha. Bodhidharma sits facing the wall. His future successor stands in the snow and presents his severed arm to Bodhidharma. He cries, "My mind is not pacified. Master, pacify my mind." Bodhidharma says, "If you bring me that mind, I will pacify it for you." The successor says, "When I search my mind, I cannot hold it." Bodhidharma says, "Then your mind is pacified already." Mumon's comment. That broken-toothed old Hindu, Bodhidharma, came thousands of miles over the sea from India to China as if he had something wonderful. He's like raising waves without wind. After he remained years in China, he had only one disciple, and that one lost his arm and was deformed. Alas, ever since he has had brainless disciples. Why did Bodhidharma come to China? For years, monks have discussed this. All the troubles that have followed since came from that teacher and disciple. In the time of Buddha Shakyamuni, Manjushri went to the assemblage of the Buddhas. When he arrived there, the conference was over, and each Buddha had returned to his own Buddha land. Only one girl was yet unmoved in deep meditation. Manjushri asked Buddha Shakyamuni how it was possible for this girl to reach this state, one which even he could not attain. "Bring her out from samadhi and ask her yourself," said the Buddha. Manjushri walked around the girl 3 times and snapped his fingers. She still remained in meditation. So by his miracle power, he transported her to a high heaven and tried his best to call her, but in vain. Buddha Shakyamuni said, even 100,000 Manjushris could not disturb her. But below this place, past 1,200 million countries, is a bodhisattva, Momyo, seed of delusion. If he comes here, she will awaken. No sooner had the Buddha spoken than that bodhisattva sprang up from the earth and bowed and paid homage to the Buddha. Buddha directed him to arouse the girl. The bodhisattva went in front of the girl and snapped his fingers, and in that instant, the girl came out of her deep meditation. Mumon's comment. Old Shakyamuni set a very poor stage. I want to ask you, monks, if Manjushri, who is supposed to have been the teacher of 7 Buddhas, could not bring this girl out of meditation, how then could a bodhisattva who was a mere beginner? If you understand this intimately, you yourself can enter the great meditation while you are living in the world of delusion. One could not awaken her, the other could. Neither are good actors. One wears the mask of God, one a devil's mask. Had both failed, the drama still would be a comedy. Shuzan held out his short staff and said, "If you call this a short staff, you oppose its reality. If you do not call it a short staff, you ignore the fact. Now what do you wish to call this?" Mumon's comment, "If you call this a short staff, you oppose its reality. If you do not call it a short staff, you ignore the fact. It cannot be expressed with words, and it cannot be expressed without words. Now say quickly what it is." Holding out the short staff, he gave an order of life or death. Positive and negative interwoven. Even Buddhas and patriarchs cannot escape this attack.
From last night's space on UFO on the U.S. Navy base crane, where
Basho said to his disciple, "When you have a staff, I will give it to you.
underneath
If you have no staff,
crane,
I will take it away from you." Mumon's comment,
and
Well, that was weird.
"When there is no bridge over the creek, the staff will help me.
So I put it in the
When I return home on a moonless night, the staff will accompany me. But if you call this a staff..."
Hey, what's up, John?
Hey, good afternoon. How you doing?
Good afternoon, man. Sorry I missed your call yesterday.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, it was bad timing. I would have definitely liked to speak. I'm glad we can catch up now. What's going on?
Just having a cup of coffee, trying to follow the money.
I know, right? You and me both. I'm doing my 2-hour Maha walk right now. I'm almost at hour 2.
Nice. Are you stretching at all?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, because after you warm up with the cardio, now you got to do some hip rotations and hamstring pulls.
Yeah, I'll definitely do some stretches when I get back to my place. So what'd you call me for? What's going on?
So I've been fundraising on Clubhouse. We've raised $510. We've got multiple Craigslist ads up in Rockford, Peoria, and Chicago trying to find campaign managers. And so I just wanted to chat with you to try to do an X Spaces money bomb for the campaign. And the campaign would compensate you as an influencer. And we can see how much money we raise.
Yeah, I'm interested in that. If you have like a day in mind, let me know, and we can schedule it in advance.
Yeah, and I think any day of the week works. I think maybe 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, Eastern or maybe Central would be best. And then if we could create an actual event, and if you want, the campaign would pay you to do creative in the same way that you do in the past. So something maybe next week, maybe end of this week. I don't know, whatever your schedule, says.
Okay, yeah, let's get on it. I would love to.
Okay, great. Anybody else in the room who doesn't know me, my name is John. I live in Chicago. I'm running for Congress here in Illinois. and I know Augustus through Clubhouse, and I did a lot of social audio spaces with Augustus with regards to politics, COVID-19 vaccines, and even UFOs.
So maybe the board of directors, we got Lisa Disbrow, John Gucci, Susan Gordon, William Hughes, Ryan McCarthy, Scott Morrison, Philip Nolan, Deborah Plunkett, Stanton Slow, and Charles.
You will enter hell like an arrow.
ZEWS.
With this staff in my hand, I can measure the depths and shadows of the world.
Might be something.
The staff supports the heavens and makes firm the earth. Everywhere it goes, the true teaching will be spread.
They look like made-up people.
Hoan said, "The past and future Buddhas both are his servants." Who is he? Mumun's comment. If you realize clearly who he is, it is as if you met your own father on a busy street. There's no need to...
So,
ask anyone whether or not your recognition is true.
Say what, brother? I think you got drawn up.
Do not fight with another's bow and arrow. Do not ride another's horse. Do not discuss another's faults. Do not interfere with another's work.
I'm finding so looks like it's from about 1985. A bunch of
Seikiso asked, "How can you proceed on the top of a 100-foot pole?" Another Zen teacher said, "One who sits on the top of a 100-foot pole has attained a certain height, but still is not handling Zen freely. He should proceed on from there and appear with his whole body in the 10 parts of the world."
If any of the names that I mentioned have popped up.
Mumon's comment.
While you're looking at Pepe.
One can continue his steps or turn his body freely about on the top of the pole. In either case, he should be respected. I want to ask you monks, however, how will you proceed from the top of that pole? Look out. The man who lacks the third eye of insight will cling to the measure of the 100 feet. Such a man will jump from there and kill himself like a blind man misleading other blind men.
wow.
Tosotsu built 3 barriers and made the monks pass through them. The first barrier is studying Zen. In studying Zen, the aim is to see one's own true nature. Now,
whistleblowers have come forth saying that there was multiple technologies divisions at this location, and podcasters started to look into it. All have been reprimanded by government entities that have said that it's a matter of national security for them not to continue to talk about this stuff on their podcasts. So naturally, I want to talk about it now. You know, so I did a big space about it last night, and the people who are in the know said to follow the money. So this is kind of like a follow-up space about that. So that's where we're at, investigating this. And yeah, it's truly fascinating.
Cool.
Yeah, as far as like a money bomb goes, to be honest with you, I've been having some difficulty getting a lot of people into an X space recently. it has to be like about a certain topic, and I need to have like certain influencers here with me in order to do it. But like if it's next week, I might be able to get some influencers in on it to help me and get people here. And the only thing is that I don't know if you got like a beef with them or not. Like Maze, don't you have like a beef with Maze?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, so that's gonna be difficult, you know. I'll try my best to help.
You can ask her. I mean,
I
even
don't know if we can raise any money.
you can ask Maze, even though we have
by
a.
myself.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, you can ask Maze because sometimes if you have a beef with somebody, those make the most interesting conversations. And I promise I'll be a total gentleman. So, yeah, I don't know. I know you're not using Clubhouse anymore, but for the past few weeks, Roger Mayhem, I don't know if you know Roger, but he goes by Mojo now on there. He's been doing money bombs for me and the campaign. And so we raised 510, and some of the biggest haters became contributors to the campaign. So that was, an interesting turn of events, and a lot of the racist bigots and low IQ uh, morons on that app, have essentially started waging war against me, and they're supporting Darren LaHood, who I'm running against. They're creating houses, updating their PTRs. So it's like causing all kinds of chaos in Clubhouse. And unfortunately, some people have been getting doxxed. So Roger had to take a break from the app. I think he's worried about, his security or just like causing further tensions. So hopefully he will come back to the app because he is very knowledgeable of politics and organizing. But we have to get about 30 petition signatures every day leading up to October 27th. So I'm going to have to, on weekends, go to other parts of Illinois, Rockford, Peoria, and Bloomington Normal to start gathering signatures. So all the money that we raise will go towards actually hiring people on the ground to get petitions so we can get on the March primary ballot. But also, I mean, the topics that we could talk about, is the national debt. We could talk about the war in Ukraine, the war in Israel. We could talk about vaccines, and other topics. But anyways, I mean, that if it's like an event that we could plan with a date and a flyer, a profile picture, campaign website, all that stuff, like it's, that type of communication. And if anybody lives here in Illinois, please hit me up, send me a message. I'd love to chat with you if you're available over the next couple weeks to maybe do some petition signatures.
Okay, thanks, man. Can you guys hear me still?
Yeah, boy, you sound good.
Nice. I just went on the elevator. Yeah, okay. Sounds good. Welcome to the stage, Tyler.
Hey, Augustus. How you doing, man? Sorry I missed your space last night. Can you give like a minute and a half synopsis of what you found and what you're trying to do?
Yeah, we just seen that basically.
Where is your true nature?
Forward-facing information
One realizes
about
his own
what
true nature.
the base does is basically they're like, yeah, we do electromagnetic weapons, we do direct energy weapons, thermonuclear weapons.
Now, when you shut the light from your eyes and become a corpse, how can you free yourself? Thirdly, if you free yourself from birth and death, you should know where you are. Now your body separates into the four elements. Where are you? Mumon's comment: whoever can pass these 3 barriers will be a master wherever he stands. Whatever happens about him, he will turn into Zen. Otherwise, he will be living on poor food, and not even enough of that to satisfy himself. An instant realization sees endless time. Endless time is as one moment. When one comprehends the endless moment, he realizes the person who is seeing it. A Zen pupil asked Kembo, all Buddhas of the 10 parts of the universe enter the one road of nirvana. Where does that road begin? Kembo, raising his walking stick and drawing the figure 1 in the air, said, here it is. This pupil went to Umon and asked the same question. Umon, who happened to have a fan in his hand, said, this fan will reach to the 33rd heaven and hit the nose of the presiding deity there. It is like the dragon carp of the eastern sea, tipping over the rain cloud with his tail. Mumon's comment: one teacher enters the deep sea and scratches the earth and raises dust. The other goes to the mountain and raises waves that almost touch heaven. One holds, the other gives out. Each support the profound teaching with a single hand. Kembo and Umon are like 2 riders, neither of whom can surpass the other. It is very difficult to find the perfect man. Frankly, neither of them know where the road starts. Before the first step is taken, the goal is reached. Before the tongue is moved, the speech is finished. More than brilliant intuition is needed to find the origin of the right road.
And who are the whistleblowers? Do we have their names?
Amban, a layman Zen student, said, Mumon has just published 48 koans and called the book Gateless Gate. He criticizes the old patriarch's words and actions. I think he is very mischievous. He is like an old donut seller trying to catch a passerby to force his donuts down his mouth. The customer can neither swallow nor spit out the donuts, and this causes suffering. Mumon has annoyed everyone enough, so I think I shall add 1 more as a bargain. I wonder if he himself can eat this bargain. If he can and digest it well, it will be fine. But if not, he will have to put it back into the frying pan with his 48 also and cook them again. Mumon, you eat first before someone else does. Buddha, according to a sutra, once said, stop, stop, do not speak. The ultimate truth is not even to think.
Oh, he's in an elevator, okay.
Amban's comment: where did that so-called teaching come from? How is it that one could not even think it? Suppose someone spoke about it, then what became of it? Buddha himself was a great chatterbox, and in this sutra spoke contrarily. Because of this, persons like Mumon appear afterwards in China and make useless donuts, annoying people. What shall we do after all? I will show you. Then Amban put his palms together, folded his hands, and said, stop, stop, do not speak. The ultimate truth is not even to think. And now I will make a little circle on the sutra with my finger, and add that 5,000 other sutras and Vimalakirti's Gateless Gate are all here. If anyone tells you fire is light, pay no attention. When 2 thieves meet, they need no introduction. They recognize each other without question.
A bunch of research for him. He just asks Grok questions and it digs into it and gives him the answer. And have you heard that at all, or do you not really go into his space?
I've seen it like once or twice, but I don't really go into his spaces.
Okay. Do you want? I have one of those bots. It's connected to. I have Grok, ChatGPT, and I also have Gemini. So I had 3 different ones, and it took a while to figure this out, dude. I had to make a special cable that connects my phone to my iPad, and so it allows like anyway, I won't bore you with the details, but basically it was tricky to figure out. But yeah, I mean, if you ever want to use it, I mean, I just built it like 3 days ago, and I'm pretty excited about it.
Let's try it.
What's up?
I said, bring it in. Let's train it.
I mean, I want to get Augustus permission. I mean, it would take over the space a little bit. I mean, it wouldn't have to. What it could be is just
make sure it's ground, bro.
Yeah,
it's ground will be fine. It won't take over the space. I'll tell it to shut up, and it'll shut up.
Yeah, it only responds if I'll unmute it whenever it needs to respond. Just so, do you want me to do that, Augustus?
With this space?
Yeah, it's a follow. I mean, what we do is we just say, hey, this is the base. We're trying to follow the money. Tell us everyone that's involved in the space, who's in charge of, making financial decisions. Just like do research that way, and then Grok just tells us, does all the research for us, and then I don't know. I just want to offer if you wanted to do it.
Yeah,
it's kind of the lazy way, bro, but it's way faster than the way I was starting us out on it.
Right. Well, you can call it lazy or you can call it smart, because it shortcuts a lot of the manual effort. And then when we get to like some serious leads, then we start contacting the right people and, then we do the manual effort at that point. But yeah, let me set it up and let's see if it can like help us out with this, because it can do online research. Like while you ask it, you can say, hey, go online and do the research on this and get.
the koan. There is a saying in Zen that original realization is marvelous practice. Japanese, honsho myoshu. The meaning is that no distinction is to be made between the realization of awakening, satori, and the cultivation of Zen in meditation and action. Whereas it might be supposed that the practice of Zen is a means to the end of awakening, this is not so. For the practice of Zen is not the true practice so long as it has an end in view. And when it has no end in view, it is an awakening, the aimless, self-sufficient life of the eternal now. To practice with an end in view is to have one eye on the practice and the other eye on the end, which is lack of concentration, lack of sincerity. To put it in another way, one does not practice Zen to become a Buddha. One practices it because one is a Buddha from the beginning, and this original realization is the starting point of the Zen life. Original realization is the body, Ti, and the marvelous practice of use, Yung, and the two correspond respectively to prajna, wisdom, and karuna, the compassionate activity of the awakened bodhisattva in the world of birth and death. In the two preceding chapters, we discussed the original realization. In this, and the one that follows, we turn to the practice or activity which flows from it. Firstly, to the life of meditation, and secondly, to the life of everyday work and recreation. We have seen that whatever may have been the practice of the tongue masters, the modern Zen communities, both Soto and Rinzai, attach the highest importance to meditation, or sitting Zen, Zazen. It may seem both strange and unreasonable that strong and intelligent men should simply sit still for hours on end. The Western mentality feels that such things are not only unnatural, but a great waste of valuable time, however useful as a discipline for inculcating patience and fortitude. Although the West has its own contemplative tradition in the Catholic Church, the life of sitting and looking has lost its appeal. For no religion is valued which does not improve the world, and it is hard to see how the world can be improved by keeping still. Yet it should be obvious that action without wisdom, without clear awareness of the world as it really is, can never improve anything. Furthermore, as muddy water is best cleared by leaving it alone, it could be argued that those who sit quietly and do nothing are making one of the best possible contributions to a world in turmoil. There is, indeed, nothing unnatural in long periods of quiet sitting. Cats do it. Even dogs and other more nervous animals do it. So-called primitive peoples do it. American Indians and peasants of almost all nations. The art is most difficult for those who have developed the sensitive intellect to such a point that they cannot help making predictions about the future, and so must be kept in a constant whirl of activity to forestall them. But it would seem that to be incapable of sitting and watching with the mind completely at rest is to be incapable of experiencing the world in which we live to the full. For one does not know the world simply in thinking about it and doing about it. One must first experience it more directly, and prolong the experience without jumping to conclusions. The relevance of Zazen to Zen is obvious when it is remembered that Zen is seeing reality directly, in its suchness. To see the world as it is concretely, undivided by categories and abstractions, one must certainly look at it with a mind which is not thinking, which is to say forming symbols about it. Zazen is not, therefore, sitting with a blank mind which excludes all the impressions of the inner and outer senses. It is not concentration, in the usual sense of quiet awareness, without comment, of whatever happens to be here and now. This awareness is attended by the most vivid sensation of non-difference between oneself and the external world, between the mind and its contents, the various sounds, sights, and other impressions of the surrounding environment. Naturally, this sensation does not arise by trying to acquire it. It just comes by itself when one is sitting and watching without any purpose in mind, even the purpose of getting rid of purpose. In the Soto or Zendo, monk's hall or meditation hall of a Zen community, there is, of course, nothing particularly distracting in the external surroundings. There is a long room with wide platforms down either side, where the monks both sleep and meditate. The platforms are covered with tatami, thick floor mats of straw, and the monks sit in 2 rows facing one another across the room. The silence which prevails is deepened, rather than broken, by occasional sounds that float up from a nearby village, by the intermittent ringing of soft-toned bells from other parts of the monastery, and by the chatter of birds in the trees. Other than this, there is only the feel of the cold, clear mountain air, and the woody smell of a special kind of incense. Much importance is attached to the physical posture of Zazen. The monks sit on firmly padded cushions with legs crossed and feet soles upward upon the thighs. The hands rest upon the lap, the left over the right, with palms upward and thumbs touching one another. The body is held erect, though not stiffly, and the eyes are left open so that their gaze falls upon the floor a few feet ahead. The breathing is regulated so as to be slow, without strain, with the stress upon the out-breath and its impulse from the belly rather than the chest. This has the effect of shifting the body's center of gravity to the abdomen so that the whole posture has a sense of firmness, of being part of the ground upon which one is sitting. The slow, easy breathing from the belly works upon the consciousness like bellows and gives it a still, bright clarity. The beginner is advised to accustom himself to the stillness by doing nothing more than counting his breaths from 1 to 10, over and over again, until the sensation of sitting without comment becomes effortless and natural. While the monks are thus seated, 2 attendants walk slowly back and forth along the floor between the platforms, each carrying a keisaku, or warning stick, round at one end and flattened at the other, a symbol of the Bodhisattva Manjushri's sword of prajna. As soon as they see a monk going to sleep or sitting in an incorrect posture, they stop before him, bow ceremoniously, and beat him on the shoulders. It is said that this is not punishment, but an invigorating massage, to take the stiffness out of the shoulder muscles and bring the mind back to a state of alertness. However, monks with whom I have discussed this practice seem to have the same wryly humorous attitude about it which one associates with the usual corporal disciplines of boys' boarding schools. Furthermore, the Soto regulations say, at the time of morning service, the dozing ones are to be severely dealt with the keisaku. At intervals, the sitting posture is interrupted, and the monks fall into ranks for a swift march around the floor between the platforms to keep themselves from sluggishness. The periods of zazen are also interrupted for work in the monastery grounds, cleaning the premises, services in the main shrine or Buddha hall, and other duties, as well as for meals and short hours of sleep. At certain times of year, zazen is kept up almost continuously from 3:30 a.m. until 10 p.m., and these long periods are called sesshin, or collecting the mind. Every aspect of the monks' lives is conducted according to a precise, though not ostentatious, ritual, which gives the atmosphere of the Soto a slightly military air. The rituals are signaled and accompanied by about a dozen different kinds of bells, clappers, and wooden gongs, struck in various rhythms to announce the times for zazen, meals, services, lectures, or sanzen interviews with the master.
All right, this feels almost illegal to know, but our windows were so old and just desperately needed to be replaced. So I called a few contractors, but they all quoted me a hefty $10,000 or more for new windows, and I almost lost it. That's when my friend, who's a realtor, stopped me and said, if you're a homeowner and your windows are older than 5 years, you might qualify for this new 2025 window replacement service. At first, it sounded too good to be true, but it turns out he used...
The ritualistic or ceremonious style is so characteristic of Zen that it may need some explanation in a culture which has come to associate it with affectation or superstition. In Buddhism, the 4 principal activities of man, walking, standing, sitting, and lying, are called the 4 dignities, since they are the postures assumed by the Buddha nature in its human nirmanakaya body. The ritualistic style of conducting one's everyday activities is therefore a celebration of the fact that the ordinary man is a Buddha, and is, furthermore, a style that comes almost naturally to a person who is doing everything with total presence of mind. Thus, if in something so simple and trivial as lighting a cigarette, one is fully aware, seeing the flame, the curling smoke, and the regulation of the breath as the most important things in the universe, it will seem to an observer that the action has a ritualistic style. This attitude of acting as a Buddha is particularly stressed in the Soto school, where both zazen and the round of daily activities are not at all seen as means to an end, but as the actual realization of Buddhahood. As Dogen says in the Shobogenzo, without looking forward to tomorrow every moment, you must think only of this day and this hour. Because tomorrow is difficult and unfixed and difficult to know, you must think of following the Buddhist way while you live today. You must concentrate on Zen practice without wasting time, thinking that there is only this day and this hour. After that, it becomes truly easy. You must forget about the good and bad of your nature, the strength or weakness of your power. In Zazen, there must be no thought either of aiming at Satori or of avoiding birth and death, no striving for anything in future time. If life comes, this is life. If death comes, this is death. There is no reason for your being under their control. Don't put any hope in them. This life and death are the life of the Buddha. If you try to throw them away in denial, you lose the life of the Buddha. The three worlds of past, present, and future are not, as is commonly supposed, stretched out to inaccessible distances. The so-called past is the top of the heart, the present is the top of the fist, and the future is the back of the brain. All time is here in this body, which is the body of Buddha. The past exists in its memory, and the future in its anticipation, and both of these are now. For when the world is inspected directly and clearly, past and future times are nowhere to be found. This is also the teaching of Bankei. You are primarily Buddhas. You are not going to be Buddhas for the first time. There is not an iota of a thing to be called error in your inborn mind. If you have the least desire to be better than you actually are, if you hurry up to the slightest degree in search of something, you are already going against the unborn. Such a view of Zen practice is therefore somewhat difficult to reconcile with the discipline which now prevails in the Rinzai school, and which consists in passing a graduated series of approximately 50 koan problems. Many of the Rinzai masters are most emphatic about the necessity of arousing a most intense spirit of seeking, a compelling sense of doubt, whereby it becomes almost impossible to forget the koan one is trying to solve. Naturally, this leads to a good deal of comparison between the degrees of attainment of various individuals, and a very definite and formal recognition is attached to final graduation from the process. Since the formal details of the koan discipline are one of the few actual secrets remaining in the Buddhist world, it is difficult to appraise it fairly if one has not undergone the training. On the other hand, if one has undergone it, one is obliged not to talk about it, save in vague generalities. The Rinzai school has always forbidden the publication of formally acceptable answers to the various koan, because the whole point of the discipline is to discover them for oneself, by intuition. To know the answers without having so discovered them would be like studying the map without taking the journey. Lacking the actual shock of recognition, the bare answers seem flat and disappointing, and obviously no competent master would be deceived by anyone who gave them without genuine feeling. There is no reason, however, why the process should actually involve all the silliness about grades of attainment, about who has passed and who has not, or about who is or is not a genuine Buddha by these formal standards. All well-established religious institutions are beset by this kind of nonsense, and they generally boil down to a kind of aestheticism, an excessive passion for the cultivation of a special style, whose refinements distinguish the sheep from the goats. By such standards, the liturgical aesthete can distinguish Roman from Anglican Catholic priests, confusing the mannerisms of traditional atmosphere with the supernatural marks of true or false participation in the apostolic succession. Sometimes, however, the cultivation of a traditional style may be rather admirable, as when a school of craftsmen or artists hands down from generation to generation certain trade secrets or technical refinements, whereby objects of peculiar beauty are manufactured. Even so, this very easily becomes a rather affected and self-conscious discipline, and at that moment all its zen is lost.
Honey, you were so right. I listed this in less than a minute. I told you listing on Poshmark was quick and easy. Oh, I sold my black tote and my slip dress.
The koan system as it exists today is largely the work of Hakui, 1685 to 1768, a formidable and immensely versatile master who gave it a systematic organization so that the complete course of Zen study in the Rinzai school is divided into 6 stages. There are, first, 5 groups of koan. 1. Hoshi, or Dharmakaya koan, whereby one enters into the frontier gate of Zen. 2. Kikan, or cunning barrier koan, having to do with the active expression of the state realized in the first group. 3. Gonsen, or investigation of words koan, presumably having to do with the expression of Zen understanding in speech. 4. Nanto, or hard to penetrate koan. 5. Goi, or 5 ranks koan, based on the 5 relationships of lord and servant, or of principle, li, and thing event, shi, wherein Zen is related to the Huayan or Avatamsaka philosophy. The 6th stage is a study of the Buddhist precepts and the regulations of the monk's life, Vinaya, in the light of Zen understanding. Normally, this course of training takes about 30 years. By no means all Zen monks complete the whole training. This is required only of those who are to receive their master's inka, or seal of approval, so that they themselves may become masters, roshi, thoroughly versed in all the skillful means, upaya, for teaching Zen to others. Like so many other things of this kind, the system is as good as one makes it, and its graduates are both tall Buddhas and short Buddhas. It should not be assumed that a person who has passed a koan, or even many koan, is necessarily a transformed human being whose character and way of life are radically different from what they were before. Nor should it be assumed that satori is a single, sudden leap from the common consciousness to complete, unexcelled awakening. Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Satori really designates the sudden and intuitive way of seeing into anything, whether it be remembering a forgotten name or seeing into the deepest principles of Buddhism. One seeks and seeks, but cannot find. One then gives up, and the answer comes by itself. Thus, there may be many occasions of Satori in the course of training. Great Satori and little Satori. And the solution of many of the koan depends upon nothing more sensational than a kind of knack for understanding the Zen style of handling Buddhist principles. Western ideas of Buddhist attainments are all too often distorted by the mysterious East approach, and by the sensational fantasies so widely circulated in theosophical writings during the decades just before and after the turn of the century. Such fantasies were based not upon a first-hand study of Buddhism, but on literal readings of mythological passages in the sutras, where the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are embellished with innumerable miraculous and superhuman attributes. Thus, there must be no confusion between Zen masters and theosophical Mahatmas, the glamorous masters of wisdom who live in the mountain fastnesses of Tibet and practice the arts of occultism. Zen masters are quite human. They get sick and die. They know joy and sorrow. They have bad tempers or other little weaknesses of character, just like anyone else. And they are not above falling in love and entering into a fully human relationship with the opposite sex. The perfection of Zen is to be perfectly and simply human. The difference of the adept in Zen from the ordinary run of men is that the latter are, in one way or another, at odds with their own humanity, and are attempting to be angels or demons. A Doka poem by Ikkyu says, "We eat, excrete, sleep, and get up. This is our work. All we have to do after that is to die." Koan training involves typically Asian concepts of the relation between master and pupil, which are quite unlike ours. For in Asian cultures, this is a peculiarly sacred relationship, in which the master is held to become responsible for the karma of the pupil. The pupil, in turn, is expected to accord absolute obedience and authority to the master, and to hold him in almost higher respect than his own father. And in Asian countries, this is saying a great deal. To a young Zen monk, the Roshi therefore stands as a symbol of the utmost patriarchal authority, and he usually plays the role to perfection, being normally a man advanced in years, fierce and tigerish in aspect, and when formally robed and seated for the Sanzen interview, a person of supreme presence and dignity. In this role, he constitutes a living symbol of everything that makes one afraid of being spontaneous, everything that prompts the most painful and awkward self-consciousness. He assumes this role as an upaya, a skillful device for challenging the student to find enough nerve to be perfectly natural in the presence of this formidable archetype. If he can do this, he is a free man whom no one on earth can embarrass. It must be borne in mind, too, that in Japanese culture, the adolescent and the youth are particularly susceptible to ridicule, which is freely used as a means of conforming the young to social convention. To the normal Asian concept of the master-pupil relationship, Zen adds something of its own, in the sense that it leaves the formation of the relationship entirely to the initiative of the pupil. The basic position of Zen is that it has nothing to say, nothing to teach. The truth of Buddhism is so self-evident, so obvious, that it is, if anything, concealed by explaining it. Therefore, the master does not help the student in any way, since helping would actually be hindering. On the contrary, he goes out of his way to put obstacles and barriers in the student's path. Thus, Wu Men's comments on the various koan in the Wu Men Kuan are intentionally misleading. The koan, as a whole, are called wisteria vines, or entanglements, and particular groups, cunning barriers, kikan, and hard to penetrate, nanto. This is like encouraging the growth of a hedge by pruning, for obviously the basic intention is to help, but the Zen student does not really know Zen, unless he finds it out for himself. The Chinese proverb, "What comes in through the gate is not family treasure," is understood in Zen to mean that what someone else tells you is not your own knowledge. Satori, as Wu Men explain, comes only after one has exhausted one's thinking, only when one is convinced that the mind cannot grasp itself. In the words of another of Ikkyu's Doka, a mind to search elsewhere for the Buddha is foolishness in the very center of foolishness. For myself of long ago, in nature non-existent, nowhere to go when dead, nothing at all. The preliminary Hoshin type of koan begins, therefore, to obstruct the student by sending him off in the direction exactly opposite to that in which he should look. Only it does it rather cleverly, so as to conceal the stratagem. Everyone knows that the Buddha nature is within oneself and is not to be sought outside, so that no student would be fooled by being told to seek it by going to India or by reading a certain sutra. On the contrary, he is told to look for it in himself. Worse still, he is encouraged to seek it with the whole energy of his being, never giving up his quest by day or night, whether actually in zazen or whether working or eating. He is encouraged, in fact, to make a total fool of himself, to whirl round and round like a dog trying to catch up with its own tail. Thus, normal first koan are Wei Nung's original face, Jiaoju's Wu, or Hakuin's one hand. At the first Sanzen interview, the Roshians glanced reluctantly at its student to discover his original face, or aspect. That is, his basic nature, as it was before his father and mother conceived him. He is told to return when he has discovered it, and to give some proof of discovery. In the meantime, he is under no circumstance to discuss the problem with others or to seek their help. Joining the other monks in the soto, the jikijitsu, or head monk, will probably instruct him in the rudiments of zazen, showing him how to sit, and perhaps encouraging him to return to the roshi for sanzen as soon as possible, and to lose no opportunity for getting the proper view of his koan. Pondering the problem of his original face, he therefore tries and tries to imagine what he was before he was born, or for that matter, what he now is, at the very center of his being. What is the basic reality of his existence, apart from his extension in time and space? He soon discovers that the Roshi has no patience whatever with philosophical or other wordy answers. For the Roshi wants to be shown. He wants something concrete, some solid proof. The student, therefore, begins to produce such specimens of reality as lumps of rock, leaves and branches, shouts, gestures of the hands, anything and everything he can imagine. But all is resolutely rejected until the student, unable to imagine anything more, is brought to his wit's end, at which point he is, of course, beginning to get on the right track. He knows that he doesn't know. When the beginning koan is Jiaoju's Wu, the student is asked to find out why Jiaoju answered Wu, or none, to the question, does a dog have the Buddha nature? The Roshi asks to be shown this nothing. A Chinese proverb says that a single hand does not make a clap, and therefore Hakuin asked, what is the sound of one hand? Can you hear what is not making a noise? Can you get any sound out of this one object which has nothing to hit? Can you get any knowledge of your own real nature? What an idiotic question. By such means, the student is at last brought to a point of feeling completely stupid, as if he were encased in a huge block of ice, unable to move or think. He just knows nothing. The whole world, including himself, is an enormous mass of pure doubt. Everything he hears, touches, or sees is as incomprehensible as nothing, or the sound of one hand. At Sanzen, he is perfectly dumb. He walks or sits all day in a vivid daze, conscious of everything going on around him, responding mechanically to circumstances, but totally baffled by everything. After some time in this state, there comes a moment when the block of ice suddenly collapses, when this vast lump of unintelligibility comes instantly alive. The problem of who or what it is becomes transparently absurd, a question which, from the beginning, meant nothing whatever. There is no one left to ask himself the question, or to answer it. Yet at the same time, this transparent meaninglessness can laugh and talk, eat and drink, run up and down, look at the earth and sky, and all this without any sense of there being a problem, a sort of psychological knot in the midst of it. There is no knot, because the mind seeking to know the mind, or the self seeking to control the self, has been defeated out of existence and exposed for the abstraction which it always was. And when that tense knot vanishes, there is no more sensation of a hard core of selfhood standing over against the rest of the world. In this state, the Roshi needs only a single look at the student to know that he is now ready to begin his Zen training in earnest. It is not quite the paradox which it seems to say that Zen training can begin only when it has been finished. For this is simply the basic Mahayana principle that prajna leads to karuna, that awakening is not truly attained unless it also implies the life of the bodhisattva, the manifestation of the marvelous use of the void for the benefit of all sentient beings. At this point, the Roshi begins to present the student with koan which ask for impossible feats of action or judgment, such as, take the 4 divisions of Tokyo out of your sleep, stop that ship on the distant ocean, Stop the booming of the distant bell. A girl is crossing the street. Is she the younger or the older sister? Such koan are rather more obviously tricky than the basic introductory problems, and show the student that what are dilemmas for thought present no barriers to action. A paper handkerchief easily becomes the 4 divisions of Tokyo, and the student solves the problem of the younger or older sister by mincing across the room like a girl. For in her absolute suchness, the girl is just that. She is only relatively sister, older, or younger. One can perhaps understand why a man who had practiced Zazen for 8 years told R.H. Blythe that Zen is just a trick of words. For on the principle of extracting a thorn, Zen is extricating people from the tangle in which they find themselves from confusing words and ideas with reality. The continued practice of Zazen now provides the student with a clear, unobstructed mind into which he can toss the koan like a pebble into a pool and simply watch to see what his mind does with it. As he concludes each koan, the Roshi usually requires that he present a verse from the Zenrin Kushu, which expresses the point of the koan just sought. Other books are also written, and the late Soke Sasaki, working in the United States, found that an admirable manual for this purpose was Alice in Wonderland. As the work goes on, crucial koan alternate with subsidiary koan, which explore the implications of the former, and give the student a thorough working acquaintance with every theme in the Buddhist view of the universe, presenting the whole body of understanding in such a way that he knows it in his bones and nerves. By such means, he learns to respond with it instantly and unwaveringly in the situations of everyday life. The final group of koan are concerned with the 5 ranks, goai, a schematic view of the relations between relative knowledge and absolute knowledge, failing events, shin, and underlying principle, li. The originator of the scheme was Tun Shan, 807 to 869. But it arises from the contacts of Zen with the Hua Yen, Japanese Keigon school, and the doctrine of the 5 ranks is closely related to that of the fourfold Dharma Dhatu.
There's no way I'm going anywhere looking like this. I may be 53 years old.
The ranks are often represented in terms of the relative positions of lord and servant, or host and guest, standing respectively for the underlying principle and the thing events. Thus we have 1. The lord looks down at the servant. 2. The servant looks up at the lord. 3. The lord. 4. The servant. 5. The lord and the servant converse together. Suffice it to say that the first 4 correspond to the 4 Dharma Dhatu of the Hua Yen school, though the relationship is somewhat complex, and the 5th to naturalness. In other words, one may regard the universe, the Dharma Dhatu, from a number of equally valid points of view, as many, as one, as both one and many, and as neither one nor many. But the final position of Zen is that it does not take any special viewpoint, yet it is free to take every viewpoint, according to the circumstances. In the words of Lin Ji, sometimes I take away the man, that is the subject, but do not take away the circumstances, that is the object. Sometimes I take away the circumstances, but do not take away the man. Sometimes I take away both the man and the circumstances. Sometimes I take away neither the man nor the circumstances. And sometimes, he might have added, I just do nothing special, Wu Shi. Koan training comes to its conclusion in the stage of perfect naturalness of freedom in both the absolute and the relative worlds. But because this freedom is not opposed to the conventional order, but is rather a freedom which upholds the world, Loka Sangraha, the final phase of study, is the relationship of Zen to the rules of social and monastic life. As Yun Men once asked, in such a wide world, why answer the bell and put on ceremonial robes? Another master's answer in quite a different context applies well here. If there is any reason for it, you may cut off my head. For the moral act is significantly moral only when it is free, without the compulsion of a reason or necessity. This is also the deepest meaning of the Christian doctrine of free will, for to act in union with God is to act not from the constraint of fear or pride, nor from hope of reward, but with the baseless love of the unmoved mover. To say that the koan system has certain dangers or drawbacks is only to say that anything can be misused. It is a highly sophisticated and even institutionalized technique, and therefore lends itself to affectation and artificiality. But so does any technique, even when so untechnical as Bankei's method of no method. This, too, can become a fetish. Yet it is important to be mindful of the points at which the drawbacks are most likely to arise, and it would seem that in koan training, there are 2. The first is to insist that the koan is the only way to a genuine realization of Zen. Of course, one may beg the question by saying that Zen, over and above the experience of awakening, is precisely the style of handling Buddhism which the Koan embody. But in this case, the Soto school is not Zen, and no Zen is to be found anywhere in the world outside the particular tradition of the Rinzai branch. So defined, Zen has no universality, and becomes as exotic and culturally conditioned as no drama, or the practice of Chinese calligraphy. From the standpoint of the West, such Zen will appeal only to fanciers of Nipponery, to romanticists who like to play at being Japanese. Not that there is anything inherently bad in such romanticism, for there are no such things as pure cultures, and the borrowing of other people's styles always adds to the variety and spice of life. But Zen is so much more than a cultural refinement. The second, and more serious drawback, can arise from the opposition of Satori to the intense feeling of doubt which some Koan exponents so deliberately encourage. For this is to foster a dualistic Satori. To say that the depth of the Satori is proportional to the intensity of seeking and striving which preceded is to confuse Satori with its purely emotional adjuncts. In other words, if one wants to feel exhilaratingly light-footed, it is always possible to go around for some time with lead in one's shoes, and then take them off. The sense of relief will certainly be proportional to the length of time such shoes have been worn, and to the weight of the lead. This is equivalent to the old trick of religious revivalists who give their followers a tremendous emotional uplift by first implanting an acute sense of sin, and then relieving it through faith in Jesus. But such uplifts do not last. And it was of such a Satori that Yun Feng said, "That monk who has any Satori goes right into hell like a flying arrow." Awakening almost necessarily involves a sense of relief, because it brings to an end the habitual psychological cramp of trying to grasp the mind with the mind, which in turn generates the ego with all its conflicts and defenses. In time, the sense of relief wears off, but not the awakening, unless one has confused it with the sense of relief and has attempted to exploit it by indulging in ecstasy. Awakening is thus only incidentally pleasant or ecstatic, only at first an experience of intense emotional release. But in itself, it is just the ending of an artificial and absurd use of the mind. Above and beyond that is Wu Xi, nothing special, since the ultimate content of awakening is never a particular object of knowledge or experience. The Buddhist doctrine of the four invisibles is that the void, sunya, is to a Buddha as water to a fish, air to a man, and the nature of things to the deluded, beyond conception. It should be obvious that what we are, most substantially and fundamentally, will never be a distinct object of knowledge. Whatever we can know, life and death, light and darkness, solid and empty, will be the relative aspects of something as inconceivable as the color of space. Awakening is not to know what this reality is. As a Zen-rin poem says, as butterflies come to newly planted flowers, Bodhidharma says, "I know nothing." Awakening is to know what reality is not. It is to cease identifying oneself with any object of knowledge whatsoever. Just as every assertion about the basic substance or energy of reality must be meaningless, any assertion as to what I am, at the very roots of my being, must also be at the height of folly. Delusion is the false metaphysical premise at the root of common sense. It is the average man's unconscious ontology and epistemology, his tacit assumption that he is a something. The assumption that I am nothing would, of course, be equally wrong, since something and nothing, being and non-being, are related concepts and belong equally to the known. One method of muscular relaxation is to begin by increasing tension in the muscles so as to have a clear feeling of what not to do.
Illinois homeowners, I want to buy your house right now, as is, no matter what condition.
In this sense, there is some point in using the initial koan as a means of intensifying the mind's absurd effort to grasp itself. But to identify satori with the consequent feeling of relief, with the sense of relaxation, is quite misleading. For the satori is the letting go, and not the feeling of it. The conscious aspect of the Zen mind is not therefore satori, not the original mind, but everything one is left free to do and to see and feel when the cramp in the mind has been released. From this standpoint, Bankei's simple trust in the unborn mind, and even Shinran's view of Nembutsu, are also entrances to satori. To let go, it is not always necessary to wear out the attempt to grasp until it becomes intolerable. As against this violent way, there is also a judo-a, gentle way, the way of seeing that the mind, the basic reality, remains spontaneous and ungrasped, whether one tries to grasp